This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump confronts the president of South Africa in the Oval Office over claims of white farmers facing genocide in that country. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Republican lawmakers calling for an investigation into former President Joe Biden and his associates for potentially misleading Americans. I'm Clayton Neville.
Donald Trump has acquired a new airplane for America. Katie Clark reports. We'll have the latest on music mogul Sean Diddy Combs' trial.
Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie had testified Kaplan quit after seeing him hit her. I'm Julie Walker.
On Wall Street, stocks open after an ugly plunge yesterday on deficit worries and more. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A church rooted in civil rights history destroyed in Memphis. Those stories and more all ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump welcomes the president of South Africa to the White House for a bilateral meeting aimed at resettling relations between the two countries. But an Oval Office confrontation over claims by the Trump administration that white farmers in that country are targets of violence dominated the post-meeting conversation. John Stolnis has the story from Washington.
Critics of the president are calling it an ambush. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the Oval Office with officials from both countries after a bilateral meeting. He was confronted by President Trump with claims that white farmers in that country are the victims of genocide at the hands of a government that the president says is trying to take land away from them to hand over to black farmers as reparations for apartheid.
These are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what it is. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land, and they kill you.
At one point, the president asking for the lights in the Oval Office to be dimmed to show a video of a South African opposition leader chanting a song containing the lyrics, "Kill the Farmer." And the president pointed to a number of printed out articles claiming that white farmers were being killed. President Ramaphosa forcefully pushed back on those claims.
Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
and
take
then when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer.
Last week, the Trump administration expedited the refugee status of dozens of white Afrikaners to the U.S. over claims they were victims of genocide. The meeting was a chance to reset the relationship between the two nations.
Two countries and our people now have been empowered by yourself and by myself to start engaging, and we hope that we will be able to fuel that engagement during our talks.
In February, Trump cut off all funding to South Africa, saying they were pursuing anti-white policies and supporting terrorists like Hamas and Iran. South African-born Elon Musk has been among the strongest voices on these issues in Trump's inner circle. He attended the meeting as well. John Stolnis, Washington.
Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill are calling on the Department of Justice to investigate former President Joe Biden and his associates for potentially misleading Americans on Biden's health during his presidency. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The call from Republican lawmakers in Washington comes days after it was announced President Biden has stage 4 prostate cancer. The 82-year-old's health was a topic of discussion in the media and among Americans for much of his presidency. It was after a debate performance, though, that concerns soared to the forefront, ultimately leading to Biden handing the campaign to Kamala Harris, who lost the election to President Trump. Democrats looking back frustrated. Congressman Seth Moulton spoke to Fox News.
You really do have to wonder why so many Democrats thought that he would be a good candidate going forward when American people could see with their own eyes that this wasn't right. And that's why I was working behind the scenes at first and then much more publicly to say we need a new candidate for this election.
Media coverage of the Biden presidency now under a microscope.
Okay, I do not have great connections with the Biden White House.
Well, clearly you have a lot of sources. You say you talked to over 200 sources for this book.
This was after
you have
the
some
election.
You could have called and worked.
No, that's the point, is that they were not being honest.
CNN's Jake Tapper was on the Megyn Kelly show talking about his coverage as he's out with a new book.
I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters
then he wasn't.
thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again...
at all.
In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi this week, Texas's senior senator John Cornyn urged the DOJ to open an investigation into any potential violations of federal law surrounding the representations made to Americans about the health and well-being of the then president. He's also encouraging Bondi to look into possible concealment of Biden's decline by his inner circle. I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better with Sleep Number now during the Memorial Day sale. All smart beds and bases are on sale, plus free home delivery, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. Flying the friendly skies with Donald Trump when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. It's been a past week filled with severe weather. Let's find out where those threats continued today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Today absolutely looks wet once again for the Northeast as a multifaceted storm continues to sit over the Great Lakes, extending southward toward the Mid-Atlantic. This area of active weather produced plenty of clouds and some steady rain, along with noticeably cool conditions for many on Wednesday. Even some thunderstorms in parts of Ohio, West Virginia, and especially western Pennsylvania. While that risk for stronger thunderstorms in the area fades for today, the steadier rain will stick around, and as an area of low pressure develops and strengthens off the mid-Atlantic coast and tracks toward southeastern New England into tonight, the rain may turn heavy to torrential at times from eastern Long Island toward much of coastal New England, with the potential for heavy rain even farther inland in New England, depending on the eventual track of the storm. Total rainfall of at least 1 to 2 inches is expected from eastern Ohio to northern Virginia and northward to Buffalo, Syracuse, and Albany, New York, also including much of New Hampshire and southern parts of both Vermont and Maine. Thunderstorms may turn severe this afternoon and tonight from the Rio Grande Valley of Texas and across the Red River into southern Oklahoma, where localized damaging wind gusts, hail, and flooding downpours may occur. Spotty storms also pop up this afternoon along the Atlantic side of the Florida Peninsula, with a thundershower in the area from western and central Montana southward into Idaho, Wyoming, and even the Denver area by day's end. Showers and some areas of steadier rain can be expected from western Washington and much of northern Oregon into northern Idaho, with showers and some rain also expected from northeastern Illinois into Michigan. In Seattle, a stray morning shower gives way to sun and a high of 67. For Birmingham, Alabama, expect some sunshine and a high of 84. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Don't forget you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A gift from the nation of Qatar, and Donald Trump gladly accepts. Here's Correspondent Katie Clark.
A very generous gift was offered to the United States from the Qatari royal family, and not everyone is happy about it. The Air Force has been looking to replace the Air Force One fleet, which went into service in 1990. The government signed a contract with Boeing in 2019 to replace the planes, but Boeing says that they won't be ready until 2029. President Trump, frustrated with the long timeline for the new jets, had received an offer from the Qatari royal family, gifting a 13-year-old Boeing 747-8 jumbo luxury jet to the United States worth $400 million. The Secretary of Defense, Sean Parnell, said that the plane was accepted with all federal rules and regulations in place. Democrats are not happy, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is proposing a bill to prohibit the use of a foreign aircraft for Air Force One. The Prime Minister of Qatar said that the gift was not personal to Trump, but rather a government-to-government gift. The plane will be modified for presidential use, which will take a couple of years for the modification. After Trump's term is over, it will leave service and is expected to be retired at his presidential library. I'm Katie Clark.
Now to the latest in the sexual misconduct trial of disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Correspondent Julie Walker has been following proceedings.
Sean Diddy Combs' trial ended the day with a former assistant, George Kaplan, telling jurors he would pack Diddy's bags for hotel stays with baby oil and lubricant, then clean up after. He also said the music mogul had him supply drugs like MDMA and that Combs threatened his job monthly, including once for buying the wrong size water. Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie had testified Kaplan quit after seeing him hit her. The assistant was granted immunity from self-incrimination to testify. It's still unclear exactly what that might be, but he's back on the stand Thursday. After that, the prosecution plans to call Cassie's old flame Kid Cudi to testify. They say Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car because of the relationship. Combs denies all the charges. At federal court in Manhattan, I'm Julie Walker.
When we return on America in the Morning, mortgage rates soar, home sales plummet. That's in business after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. In with Thursday Business, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
On Wall Street, stocks open after an ugly plunge yesterday on deficit worries and more. I'm Jessica Ettinger. Wall Street opens this morning after an ugly day for stocks yesterday. Bond yields were up, markets were down dramatically. The Dow plunging 800 points. The major averages are all lower for the year. Investors are worried about tariffs, the economy, and the budget bill in Washington, which adds to the country's deficit. Bitcoin jumping to a new all-time high, soaring above $109,000. Oil at a one-month high. U.S. crude at $62 a barrel. Prices at the pump are ticking higher. Target slipped 5% yesterday on tough quarterly results. The retailer partly blaming backlash to its DEI rollback, sending shoppers to other stores.
Pretty disappointing performance from Target for the first quarter. On a media call, Target CEO Brian Cornell wouldn't say definitively if the retailer had raised prices due to tariffs or would in the future. He did say Target has many levers and mitigation strategies it would employ first, raising prices as a, quote, last resort. Cornell called out, quote, ongoing pressure from 5 consecutive months of declining consumer confidence, tariff uncertainty, and the reaction to its upgraded DEI program.
CNBC's Courtney Reagan. Mortgage rates back above 7% for a 30-year fixed home loan, according to Mortgage News Daily. Here's a red flag for the housing market. Redfin says the number of homes for sale overall in the U.S. has soared. Sellers are worried they've already missed the top of the market.
Nationally, inventory is up 18% from a year ago and has hit the highest level since the start of 2020, pre-pandemic. When you look at where inventory is soaring even more, it's in some of those markets that were super hot during the pandemic, like Phoenix, Denver, Dallas, Miami, Las Vegas. These markets are now seeing prices weaken dramatically. The jump in listings is not just more new listings, but homes not selling, just sitting on the market. Now, prices lag sales by about 3 months, so we are likely to see even bigger price drops in these cities over the summer. There are, however, some markets that are not seeing big jumps in supply, and these are, of course, mostly in the Midwest, where homes are most affordable and sales are still strong.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Toyota has redesigned America's top-selling SUV, the RAV4, to become exclusively a hybrid.
Beginning in 2026, it will eliminate the gas-only engine option. Last year, the company sold more than 475,000 RAV4s. About half of them were hybrids.
CNBC's Joe Kernan. Paramount's Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is being screened in IMAX tonight with fan events around the U.S. Also on today's watch list, we get earnings from BJ's Wholesale and Ralph Lauren. President Trump holds his meme coin dinner tonight. Universal's new Epic Universe Park opens in Orlando. Universal is a sister company to CNBC.
Jessica Ettinger with a look at Thursday business. When we return on America in the Morning, intentionally set. That's what investigators say about a fire at an historic black church. After these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. Fire at an historic black church in Memphis was intentionally set. That, according to investigators. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
Investigators in Tennessee say a fire that severely damaged the historic black church, the Claiborne Temple, was set on fire intentionally April 28th. They are still looking for the suspect. The temple was undergoing a years-long renovation at the time. The temple hosted nightly meetings during the 1968 sanitation workers' strike and was a staging point for marches to City Hall, including one on March 28th, 1968. 1968, led by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Marchers retreated to the temple when things turned violent. King promised to lead a second peaceful march, but he was shot by a sniper while standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel on April 4th. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Today is National Solitaire Day, recognizing the card game that's been around for more than 200 years. America in the Morning for Thursday, May 21st, 2025 is produced by Tom Cusick. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, Donald Trump with the President of South Africa at the White House. Rich Johnson reports.
House Republicans continue to haggle over President Trump's big, beautiful bill. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Grilling the Education Secretary as she looks to do away with the department. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Born in the USA singer is taking on Donald Trump. I'm Kevin Carr.
Police have found a bust stolen from singer Jim Morrison's Paris grave nearly 4 decades ago.
Bitcoin surges to all-time highs amidst market turmoil. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. It's been a week filled with severe weather. Let's find out where those threats are today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Today absolutely looks wet once again for the Northeast as a multifaceted storm continues to sit over the Great Lakes, extending southward toward the mid-Atlantic. This area of active weather produced plenty of clouds and some steady rain, along with noticeably cool conditions for many on Wednesday. Even some thunderstorms in parts of Ohio, West Virginia, and especially western Pennsylvania. While that risk for stronger thunderstorms in the area fades for today, the steadier rain will stick around, and as an area of low pressure develops and strengthens off the mid-Atlantic coast and tracks toward southeastern New England into tonight, the rain may turn heavy to torrential at times from eastern Long Island toward much of coastal New England, with the potential for heavy rain even farther inland in New England, depending on the eventual track of the storm. Total rainfall of at least 1 to 2 inches is expected from eastern Ohio to northern Virginia and northward to Buffalo, Syracuse, and Albany, New York, also including much of New Hampshire and southern parts of both Vermont and Maine. Thunderstorms may turn severe this afternoon and tonight from the Rio Grande Valley of Texas and across the Red River into southern Oklahoma, where localized damaging wind gusts, hail, and flooding downpours may occur. Spotty storms also pop up this afternoon along the Atlantic side of the Florida Peninsula, with a thundershower in the area from western and central Montana southward into Idaho, Wyoming, and even the Denver area by day's end. Showers and some areas of steadier rain can be expected from western Washington and much of northern Oregon into northern Idaho, with showers and some rain also expected from northeastern Illinois into Michigan. In Seattle, a stray morning shower gives way to sun and a high of 67. For Birmingham, Alabama, expect some sunshine and a high of 84. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. It's 23 till. I'm John Trout. Wednesday's Oval Office meeting between President Trump and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa began with handshakes and talk of golf, but then everyone was surprised when the lights went down and a video started rolling. Correspondent Rich Johnson picks it up from here.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down.
President Trump showed the South African president and his people, plus the reporters from both countries in the Oval Office, video of what he claimed was evidence of genocide against white South African farmers.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000.
Later, Trump leafed through a pile of articles said to be about individual cases of whites dying at the hands of blacks in South Africa. Then a South African reporter asked,
"What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?"
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
The reaction from the South African leader?
Most of the South African delegation looked very surprised by this video being played. It seems to have come as something of an ambush. But President Ramaphosa did not, as some were concerned he would do, respond as President Zelensky did back in February when he got angry in the White House about things he believed were being said that weren't true about his country.
South African Broadcasting Company reporter Kate Fisher's observations after the meeting. As for Ramaphosa, the experienced diplomat who once served as Nelson Mandela's chief negotiator during talks to end white minority rule, stayed calm and reasoned.
People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people.
And the South African president urged the American president to listen to the voices of South Africans on this issue. I'm Rich Johnson.
The fate of the House GOP's Big Beautiful Bill that would fund much of President Trump's agenda remains in limbo as fiscal hawk holdouts continue to purportedly seek ways to avoid adding to the deficit. John Stolnis has more from Washington.
As the hours ticked by yesterday with the House Rules Committee failing to advance the Big Beautiful Bill out of committee to a full floor vote, members of the House Freedom Caucus expressed optimism a deal would eventually be reached, but cautioned against expectations of a quick resolution. Chairman Andy Harris.
Well, there was a little SALT deal made. I don't think it went in the right direction. But the White House offered a proposal late last night that I think fulfills the other two parts of what the president talked about. And there's broad agreement in the House Freedom Caucus that if that's included in the package, I think this package is en route to get passed.
Congressman Chip Roy says there is a lot of fraud and abuse in Medicare and Medicaid that is not being addressed in this legislation.
One of the reasons I ran for Congress was to deal with our very badly broken healthcare system. Today, there are millions of Americans right now who can't get health care because of our broken system. They're on wait lists. The vulnerable Americans are on wait lists because we've got a broken system that rewards the able-bodied over the vulnerable, that gives more money to people on Medicaid than on Medicare. We are trying to fix those things and match those so we have a system that works.
And Congressman Scott Perry urged his colleagues not to rush something through the House.
There's some kind of belief in Washington, D.C. that once today comes and goes, that this cannot be fixed. This is a completely arbitrary deadline set by people here to force people into a corner to make bad decisions. It's more important to get this right, to get it correct, than to get it fast. And we are sitting at the table to do that.
After the impromptu press conference by those Freedom Caucus members, President Trump summoned GOP leaders to a White House meeting for more discussions. Afterwards, Speaker Mike Johnson called it a productive conversation.
You will see how all of this is resolved, but I think we can resolve their concerns, and it'll be probably some combination of work by the president in these areas as well as here in Congress.
The president has been pressuring members of the Freedom Caucus and other fiscal hawks to acquiesce to Speaker Johnson's request to move forward with the legislation as it stands now. John Stolnis, Washington.
U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon is defending the Trump administration's requested 15% cut of her department's budget. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The proposed cuts come with about $12 billion in savings for the federal government, according to the Trump administration. The goal of the administration and of Education Secretary Linda McMahon is to do away with the department altogether and return decisions on education to the states. McMahon testified in front of lawmakers on Capitol Hill this week and was grilled about federally funded education programs and what will happen to them if their federal money goes away.
Do you have a view on whether or not preschool through Head Start is important as a grounds for a student's education?
I think the earlier we can start education, the better it is for every child. I look at mothers who spend time with their children, reading to them when other children may not have that benefit. I think those children definitely have an advantage, and you'd like to see that. But I don't think that the federal government has the responsibility for that. I think that should be looked at more in state budgets and how states can best set up their programs.
She was pressed by Congressman Josh Harder.
Let me tell you what's at stake. In my district, 1,600 kids rely on Head Start. This is the first type of education that any student receives. And I think passing it off on some other department is unacceptable because we know that Head Start students are 13 percentage points less likely to commit a crime. They're more likely to graduate high school, less likely to experience a teen pregnancy. This is our kids' futures, and our entire communities are lifted up because of this program. So I think saying that this part of the education system isn't your responsibility doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Since President Trump took office in January, the Education Department has shed nearly half of its employees through buyouts or layoffs. I'm Clayton Neville.
Bitcoin explodes. More on that from tech reporter Chuck Palm when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Pope Leo XIV calls for aid to reach Gaza and an end to hostilities in his first general audience. Charles de Ledesma reports.
The Vatican says around 40,000 people were on hand for the audience with Pope Leo, which comes just days after an estimated 200,000 people attended the inaugural Mass for history's first American Pope. Leo spoke in his native English, his fluent Spanish, as well as the traditional Italian of the papacy. The pontiff then called the Gaza situation worrying and painful. He says, I renew my heartfelt appeal to allow access for decent humanitarian aid and to end the hostilities, whose heartbreaking price is paid by children, the elderly and the sick. Leo didn't mention the plight of hostages taken by Hamas on October 7, 2023, as the late Pope Francis normally did. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
One of the NFL's most outspoken owners has died. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
Jim Irsay, the longtime owner and CEO of the NFL's Indianapolis Colts, has died. The team says the 65-year-old Irsay passed away peacefully in his sleep on Wednesday afternoon. The statement read in part, quote, Jim's dedication and passion for the Indianapolis Colts, in addition to his generosity, commitment to the community, and most importantly, his love for family, were unsurpassed. The Colts won a Super Bowl and appeared in another during Irsay's ownership tenure, which began in 1997. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Lisa Dwyer reports that the lawyer for a man accused of helping inmates escape from a Louisiana prison says his client is innocent.
10 men who broke out of a New Orleans jail last week clogged a toilet to get the water shut off so that they could escape through a hole behind it. Maintenance worker Sterling Williams is accused of helping them. His lawyer, Michael Kennedy, says his client is innocent.
He was told by a deputy there was no work order. He asked, and the deputy convinced him that as he was there, could he just look at it? He assessed the situation, determined he would have to shut off the water to fix it, which he did in his role as jail plumber.
Kennedy says that Williams did not take the reported stabbing or shanking comment seriously.
He didn't take this as a threat. He wasn't acting out of fear. He was taking this as normal jailhouse banter.
Kennedy says that Williams did not know about the men's plan and did not allow the inmates to cut the pipe.
I think it was using the toilet specifically, and he had the misfortune of being the plumber on duty.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Bitcoin surges to all-time highs in spite of U.S. stock market lows. Here's Chuck Palm with a breakdown in today's Tech Report.
Bitcoin has achieved its highest price to date since its inception in 2008. Yesterday, Bitcoin rose to $109,480, which was an astonishing 2% gain for a single day. Bitcoin, the largest crypto market by value, has benefited from the more favorable macroeconomic conditions as of late. The normally somewhat stable Bitcoin market price dropped below $75,000 early this April as President Trump has ratcheted down on some of his international tariffs. In an email to Decrypt.io, Joe DiPasquale, CEO of crypto asset manager BitBull Capital, said, "We're seeing growing institutional interest and renewed risk appetite across the board." DiPasquale also said that this is a sustained bid that reflects a structural shift in how investors are viewing Bitcoin. Bitcoin has also been bolstered by investors seeing it as a hedge against macroeconomic uncertainties. At this pace, Bitcoin remains on track to hit $500,000 before the end of the president's second term. The record-breaking surge comes this week amidst rising demand for Bitcoin ETFs with nearly $1 billion worth of inflows. Another factor might be the President Trump's dinner for investors in his meme coin, Official Trump. The dinner scheduled for Thursday aims to bring out more than 200 Trump coin holders who spent between $53,000 and $16.4 million for their seats. Given this new digital tide rising all ships, Dogecoin has been up, an early favorite meme coin and the 8th biggest cryptocurrency by market cap, rose 6% in the last 48 hours, according to CoinGecko data. Ethereum has also been up over the month at about 25,040. The total market value of digital assets yesterday hit $3.38 trillion and is up 1.34% in the past 24 hours of trading. For more on AI or crypto, follow me at chuckpalm.com.
With Thursday Sports, here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Stanley Cup playoffs in the West Finals. Game 1 in Dallas. The Stars came back from down 3-1 in the third period, scoring 5 times for a 6-3 victory over the Oilers. Dallas got 3 power play goals in the first 6 minutes of the final period to stun Edmonton. The go-ahead score off the stick of Matt Duchene.
A lot of good stuff. We got a lot better, I think, than that. At 5-on-5, I think we could defend a little bit better. I think we could create a little bit more, but you got to win them always this time of year, and, special teams came up big tonight.
Tonight in the East, the Panthers up 1-0 are at the Hurricanes. NBA playoffs in the Eastern Conference Final, Game 1 at Madison Square Garden. The Pacers erased a 17-point deficit in the fourth quarter, upending the Knicks 138-135 in overtime. Tyrese Halliburton hit the tying jumper at the end of regulation. Then Indiana scored their last 10 points in OT in the paint. Tonight in the West, the Thunder have a 1-0 lead at home as they meet the Timberwolves. Oklahoma City will be led by the new NBA MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the top scorer in the association, leading his team to the best record this season. SGA received 71 of 100 first-place votes. Denver's Nikola Jokic, the 3-time MVP, got the remainder of the number ones. Baseball, the Orioles beat the Brewers 8-4 in 11 innings to snap an 8-game losing streak. Adley Rutschman with a 3-run blast in extras to give interim Orioles manager Tony Mansolino his first big league win.
I felt like in the extra innings, the balls kind of fell down for us and went through. We flipped some balls in. We battled 2 strikes and big knocks, and Adley with the big hit there at the end.
Rays hit 4 dingers in their 8-4 win over the Astros. Royals topped the Giants 8-4. Mariners got a 2-run homer from Leody Taveras in the 8th inning, putting down the White Sox 6-5. Guardians and Twins split 2 games. Minnesota took the completion of a suspended game from Monday 6-5 on a walk-off RBI double from Cody Clemens. Cleveland took the second game 5-1. Blue Jays pounded the Padres 14-0, hanging up a 5 spot in the 7th inning, then scoring 7 more runs in the 8th, including a grand slam from Dalton Varsho, while Kevin Gausman and Jose Arena combined on a 5-hit beauty. Yankees got a game-ending tater from Jason Dominguez in a 4-3 win over the Rangers. Mets down the Red Sox. Tigers beat the Cardinals. Phillies clocked the Rockies. Pirates got by the Reds, and the Cubs edged the Marlins. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Coming up on America in the Morning, stolen iconic rock and roll memorabilia returned after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Donald Trump is taking on the boss on social media. Here's entertainment correspondent Kevin Carr.
The President of the United States is in the middle of a public feud with Bruce Springsteen. Last week in Manchester, UK, Springsteen spoke out against Donald Trump.
The America I've written about that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
Trump then vented on social media, calling the musician, quote, highly overrated and a, quote, dried up prune. By Monday, Trump was calling for an investigation of musicians like Beyonce and Springsteen for their endorsement of Kamala Harris last fall. Springsteen used the publicity to promote his new EP, Land of Hopes and Dreams, which includes 4 new songs and the 2 anti-Trump speeches he made in Manchester last week.
Raise your voices against authoritarianism and let freedom ring.
Trump responded on Wednesday with a doctored video featuring him hitting a golf ball, which cuts to a video of Springsteen tripping on stage, apparently struck by the ball. I'm Kevin Carr.
An artifact stolen from Jim Morrison's grave has been found decades after being taken. Sagar Magani reports.
Police have found a bust stolen from singer Jim Morrison's Paris grave nearly 4 decades ago. The grave's long been a pilgrimage site for Doors fans. The 300-pound bust was stolen in 1988, and Paris police recovered it this week in an unrelated case. Paris tour guide Jay Gizzini hopes the sculpture's put back on the grave.
And it would attract so many more people, but the cemetery wouldn't even be able to hold that many people.
Artist Sam Bircher figures it would just disappear again.
Someone will probably try and take it again because these things are priceless, aren't they?
But she has an idea.
They could put it back and just have like 24 people volunteering to guard it.
I'm Sagar Magani.
Well, here's a door opener if you know a sailor. Today is National Maritime Day. May 22nd recognizes the launch of the maritime industry in the United States. The celebration also honors America's merchant marines for their contributions and sacrifices to our country. America in the Morning for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025 is produced by Tom Cusick. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.